we said, "You know what? We're just gonna follow up on Monday with them and make sure that all the people that we have to talk to, they're on that list for our regular follow-ups on Monday so that we can make sure they get into what we need them to do."
Yeah, it's gonna be a good transition,
Yeah,
them going from Project 2740 to 5WH, but that is it. You're right, it's follow-up. It's just it's a constant follow-up, that's
yeah,
business in general.
yeah, absolutely. Those who follow through make money, those who don't, don't.
Yeah, but it's consistent, that was
Correct.
something, in the 5WH program, that's something I dealt with, this week with a lot of them was, how do I consistently follow up? And they were really struggling. They're like, "I want a time block," and it's like, "Okay, I'm gonna put things in its place," and it's like, "Yeah, but your consistency and my consistency and their consistency are all different." And they struggled with it a lot, and it was all in the conversations that closed in our phase 3 for 5WH. It was all in that, and they're, like, anticipating, "I just wanna close business. I just wanna close business. I just," and they're not getting the results, and I had to explain to them, I'm like, "Look, it doesn't just magically happen. You have to constantly do these things." And I showed them a conversation that I had since, September of last year with somebody of someone who's gonna come in and join the program now. And, like, just because you identified they're a prospect and it was when they needed you and they had the motivation, doesn't mean they just buy. One little tweak, and I told them this person's tweak was the scheduling of the time they could get access to you and I didn't fit for them. They were running their business at that time and they were just like, "Hey, if you ever change those times, which we have, let me know." And I let them know and they're like, "This is great." Like, perfect. That's so it's there are so many different factors, but if you're not staying engaged with your pipeline consistently, whatever your consistency is, then yeah, you're going to lose people. You're not going to see results. But what happens is you build this momentum up. You build this stockpile of a pipeline up that you're constantly going in and re-engaging with using our system to confirm and uncover things. And really what it is, the major piece that when you get at the end is allowing people to tell you exactly how to close them. That's like, for me, it's one of the biggest pieces that when I understood this many, many years ago, is I can literally just ask someone a question and they can tell me, "Well, this is how you close me, Adam." And it's it feels like magic. It feels like you're putting a spell on somebody. But when you go through our system and you understand your 5 Ws, you understand what you're selling, you understand why you sell it, or why those people need you, like what they're lacking. You understand when they need something. You understand what motivation, who has motivation to buy. When you truly understand those things after you go through our system, you can ask very poignanted questions to someone to say, like, "Hey, when would you actually need this?" You can literally just say, like, "When would you actually need this?" And they would say to you, "When this thing happens, when that problem arises, when this opportunity comes about." And now they're telling you, "Well, this is how you close me." Right? And it's like, if it's a when, it's, "This is how you close me." If maybe it's like something that, what is it? We always talk about, what do you sell? You don't sell a product or a service. Yes, you do. Don't get me wrong. You do sell a product or service, but that's not what people buy. They buy the emotion, they buy the feeling, they buy the experience they get after they buy your product. And if you can figure that out, if you can figure out what you sell, which is what we help you to do, and then you can start asking these questions. So let's just hypothetically say, what you sell is, confidence that your website works, right? If that's what you're really selling, confidence in your website, you could ask somebody like, "Hey, Bob, what would you need to feel confident in your website?" And they will then tell you, "These are the things." And that's how you close them. Like, this is what I mean by getting people to tell you how to close them. If you ask questions based on what you already know, because that's what we do in our prospecting, that's what we do in the 5 Ws. We allow you to take a deep dive and figure out these people and figure out what you actually offer and why people buy it. And when you put those things together, the questions are simple. And that's what the whole thing. That's why we call it the simple selling system, because the questions become simple. And when you ask them at the right time in the right way, people will be like, "Hey, Adam, hey, Tom, this is how you close me." And it's effortless, right? That's the whole point of this.
Yeah, and that's why it was so important for us too to put in a component of understanding your own behaviors and the things that get in the way from you being able to listen to those reasons for when people need you, why people need you. Because when you're sabotaging yourself, and like you said, like, people just wanna get to the close, and they just wanna get the results, their hyperachievers tend to kick in, and that's a sabotaging behavior that we go over in the program, and, like, you have to understand your own behaviors that are influencing your outcomes on the things that you're trying to accomplish, because you will get in your own way. You will not listen to the person. And if you can't listen or don't have the capability to really listen to what that person is saying so that you can use their words against them to sell them on closing and working with you, you're going to fail miserably. And that's why, like, when people come into the course and they're like, "Oh, what's all this stuff about sabotaging behaviors and limiting beliefs?" Well, those are the core things that get in the way of you executing on the sales, right? My job as a coach is to do mindset and execution strategy and get you out of your own way. And it's so amazing when people recognize, "Holy cow, that's what I'm doing. I
Mhm.
can't do that anymore." And then they go and make a sale and they're like, "Hey, I did it." Well, you did it because you were aware of yourself and you did it. You were able to mitigate that intrusiveness of your sabotaging habit or your limiting belief, and you able to listen to truly what that person really needs, and you were able to identify your 5 Ws in that person, and it was much, much simpler to close the deal.
Yeah, people, even when they're coming into our program or buying our course, is they want the result. They want I want to find a way to get more deals and prospect better, and there's that old saying of sell them what they want and give them
Give 'em
what
what
they
they need.
need. And what most people don't understand is all the 5 Ws and the prospecting tactics and the conversation that close, those 3 phases that I really teach people are great, but none of them work without the things that you teach them, without understanding their sabotaging behaviors, without really being able to have their attention management, and without understanding what your limiting beliefs are. And it's like, this is why it works. It works because of the 2 philosophies that you and I have brought together for these people to work harmoniously and simultaneously to get that end result. Because, yeah, some people can grind it out and take tactics and make them work, and some other people can very simply be very aware of all those things but not have the tactics. It's when you put them all together in one system that allows you to really execute and feel that confidence in it and feel like you know what you're doing, you just have to do it now, and that's the beauty of this system.
If you work the system and you really put the work in, you're going to benefit greatly from it. If you don't, it's like anything else in life, nothing's going to come of it. But you have to be able to, and we have to be willing to make the changes that you need to make, right? We talk about so many times empowering language, and in the course we talk about the importance of changing your language to those things that are going to make you feel more empowered, right? Somebody may come in and they may like, "Oh, I'm not risky at what I do." Right? I don't want to take that risk. Well, no, you don't have to. Don't say that. Say, "I'm going to manage my risks here. I'm going to try to figure out what is the best way to approach it. And I will take the risk as long as I've thought it out." Some people just jump in and they do it. But that language of I can't afford to take a risk, like that language that you talk to yourself with is very disempowering. It doesn't allow you to go and do what you are planning to do, right? Thinking as a salesperson, like, you become a salesperson when you're a business owner, and as much as you like it or you don't like it, it's part of what you have to do so you could do what you're meant to do, and that's our tagline on our website about this. But when you get to recognize that you're not being pushy. You just know that you can solve that problem for that person, and that you have the solution that they need. The way you speak to yourself is you're not being pushy. No, I have the solution to that problem. And when you start to see yourself in a different way, you get out of your own way, and then you can more effectively make the sale.
That's the issue when you're learning, right? Is you're learning to do something differently. And many people who come into any program, but specifically ours, is they want to do things the way they've always done them. And it's difficult to really change how you work and change how you think. And that's why we've put it into a course format, because you may need to watch it twice. And that because we really are asking people to change almost everything they do and every way they think about themselves, about their product, about their prospecting, about their audience, about their clients. And it's really having a completely different perspective on it that we do simplify it. But because it's different, it really feels so much more difficult because it's new. Anytime something's new, it seems difficult. If you take up a new sport, I remember when my son first started golfing, he was playing other sports and we moved him to golf and he's like, "This doesn't feel right, dad. Like I'm not supposed to hold something this way." I'm like, "I know, but in golf you are." If any of you have ever golfed, it's an awkward way you hold a club to get it to do what you want it to do. It's an awkward way to swing to get the ball to go where you want it to go. But when you start doing it over and over and over again, it becomes familiar and you're like, "Okay, yeah, it feels awkward, but my body and my mind are used to it doing it this way now." And then you're like, wow, it actually works. And you're surprised. You're always surprised, at least for me, when I hit the golf ball the right way and it goes exactly where I want it to go. You're a little surprised until you do it over and over and over again. And then you're like, oh, it's because I'm using a system.
Exactly, and like you're saying, it's awkward in the beginning, but everything that you ever started that's new is awkward in the beginning, and that's the beauty of the course. You could go back and watch it 5 times, and by the 5th time, it's not new anymore, it's just part of the routine, it's part of the rhythm. It is like learning, like lifting weights. I mean, your muscles learn different ways if you've never done that before, and you just have to retrain yourself. And just like you have to retrain yourself on that stuff, you have to retrain the way you speak to yourself and the language that you use so that you don't get yourself caught up and stuck when things get tough. If you start to speak to yourself in a different way, because also the way you speak to yourself and your limiting beliefs is going to impact how much judgment you press on yourself and how much you take yourself out of your own game. And this is part of why we put the saboteur piece in there, because it's all about judgment. It's all about judging ourselves, situations, and other people and other things. And when we recognize we're in that mindset of judgment, we can approach people very differently. Like when you remove the judgment and your feelings and you remove the emotion of the situation and you stick to the facts and the evidence of what you're presenting, it makes things a little bit easier. But that's what the course really talks about, is all these ways to make those things better so that you can effectively sell and prospect and do all of the work that you need to do.
It's not only the way that you speak to yourself, it's the way that you will now speak to others. Like you'll have a toolbox on how to speak to others. And one of the main ways that most of our clients have spoken to others in the past is networking. And a lot of them will come to us because they're like, "Hey, I'm networking and it's not producing results. It's not doing anything." And usually someone who likes to go out networking is good. They're good at talking, right? It's just they don't know what to talk about. So they talk about the normal niceties, the sports, the weather. They ask people about themselves, which is it's wonderful. And they spend a lot of effort and energy going to networking events, whether it's online or in person. They do that and then they're left with a stack of cards. I got them right here in front of me. They're left with a stack of business cards. It's like, okay, well, now what do I do? And that is exactly why we have created the system. Tom and I have built all the companies we had. This is 8 companies now between the two of us that we have built all through networking. The reason they've worked, the reason that we were actually able to build a company or many companies through networking is because of what we did afterwards. It has nothing to do with like being a great networker. Like, yeah, you need that, but you actually don't have to be a great networker to use this system with networking. Because what it does is it sets you up for success before you go to the networking meeting and afterwards. And even during when you're there talking, you'll have more intention of what you're going to talk about, more expectations of what you should leave with. But really the whole system is built so when you go and you find new people to talk to, that now you know what to do next. And that's where most people get lost. It's like, I went to this great networking event, but I don't know what to do. Well, now with this system, you'll know exactly what to do. You'll know what research to do on these people to see, like, does it make sense? Have I been sold on now a reason to speak with them again? And if you are, you're simply just going to go sell them, like, hey, it was awesome to meet you. And you'll have the exact reason because you did research, which is what we teach in our system, how to do very particular research to find these reasons to speak with them, to be sold, because that's what we want you to do. We don't want you to speak to people just because they're living and breathing and you met them at a networking event or you found them on LinkedIn. We want you to speak to them because they're in your target market. You recognize them as an ideal client, and now you've been sold on this reason to speak with them, which makes them a prospect, right? That's really the matriculation. No, no, that's the wrong word. The evolution of where we take people from the time you meet them into like, I'm going to close them. It's like going through that phase of, okay, they seem like they're in my target market. Oh, seems like they're an ideal client. Wow. I've been sold on a reason to speak with them and they are my prospect. That's the beauty of the system. And when you have gone to a networking event, and you come home with 10 or 15 business cards, you literally can sit down and walk through the system that we teach you and now understand exactly maybe those two or three that you're going to reach out to for a very particular reason and know exactly what you're going to say to them, why you're saying it to them, and then carry that through the rest of the system to meet with them and then have an actual conversation that can close instead of just going out for, hey, you want to get together to see what you're all about and see what I'm all about? Because that's what most networking ends in. I spent my entire career doing this. I'm the founder of Long Island Networkers. I've been the president of a chamber of commerce. I've been on the board of other chambers. I'm in two different other networking groups. And it's like the reason it works is because you have to work it. Okay. And what most people do to work it is they set up a meeting. Hey, you want to go out for coffee and get to know each other? And like, that's nice. And you do get to know each other. But is that a productive use of your valuable time? And when you start to have less and less time, you stop doing those things and you're like, how come we're not getting clients? Well, because you're not doing what got you there. You're not networking continually. And the reason you're not doing it is because you don't know if it will lead to something. Because most of those let's get together for a coffee chat didn't turn out the way you wanted because they probably sold you. Well, instead, you don't have to sell anybody on your product or your service. You have to sell them on a reason to speak with them. And then when you're sitting there speaking with them, you're gonna be sold on a reason to meet to work with them. That's the idea. Is these are just conversations that close, not like, hey, I'm gonna go give you my sales pitch. So I mean, look, if you're a networker out there, I highly advise you to check this program out. Of course, I want you to buy it, but we have a starter course and check out the free starter course and see what it does.
As you were talking about that, I couldn't help but think it's the pleaser saboteur that gets us into trouble with that. And you go out for the, oh, you want to get to know each other kind of conversation. We were talking to one of the people in our group, and she was like, what do I do with all these business cards? I have all these business cards. I'm like, well, you got to, first of all, control the people pleaser to not take the business cards that you don't want, right? You got to put up that boundary, but the people pleaser in us wants to form as many relationships with as many people as possible because we think that that's the right thing to do. When in fact, we want to form relationships with the right people so we can be with the right people. And the people pleaser is one of those sabotaging behaviors that really gets in the way of you being able to network correctly and then develop your prospects out of that networking, right? Like you taught me so many years ago, you know, we don't give out business cards when we go to networking events. We take business cards of the people that we want to take business cards from because we are mitigating the people pleaser and wanting to be with everybody because that becomes a boundary. It is a boundary that the people pleaser needs. It's a boundary of no that the people pleaser really needs, and that's what you're doing in that situation is you're saying no to the wrong people, saying right to the yes. I reverse that. Saying yes to the right people, right? And that's what this, when we talk about some of these saboteurs in the course, that's the intent is so that you can identify that, oh yeah, when I go to a networking meeting, I'm not gonna let that people pleaser get in the way because if he gets in the way, I'm gonna take a bunch of business cards that I'm just gonna waste my time prospecting when I could be prospecting the right people. And that's the thing. Like you should have a good sense and know using your 5 W's from the course and being able to identify who those people are that you should be talking to within seconds of talking to them, you're going to have much more effective networking, right? It's effective networking that we're
Yes.
really trying to help people with.
That people pleaser, it's tough, you know? It's
It
it's,
is.
uh, it's it's instant validation of like, "I'm worthy, I'm good, but you gotta remember that the person that you have to please the most is yourself, right?
So
Like, you're the one who has to get up tomorrow morning and do all this work. So, man, if you're constantly wasting your own time and your own energy, like, you're not gonna be very pleased with yourself, and you won't be able to please anybody else. So that's what we aim to do. This course is really set out there so you could do a lot less and do it much, much better than what you were doing previously. But yeah, it takes a tremendous amount of adaptation and change and learning and implementation, and it is tough. It's a tough thing to do, and that's why we offer different opportunities to get access to Tom and I. But we're gonna do this each week. We're gonna talk more and more about our course, how it's impacted people, the things that we found people have issues with, the successes that people have. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and we'll see you soon. So, if any of this conversation has resonated with you, I bashed into my mic. What you should do is get our free quick start course. Yes, it's free. You can go to atomicbusinesscoaching.com/course and you'll go right down and you can get the free 1 hour video course that goes through everything that we do absolutely free. So, check that out, atomicbusinesscoaching.com/course.